And good evening to everyone, and good morning. It's the evening before. I'm going to be away early tomorrow morning, so I'm trying to jump ahead and get this done on Tuesday night, but it's going to hopefully be published on Wednesday. And it's just a word having to do with the gospel of today. I read in the latest version of Magnificat, the magazine, and it struck a chord with me because it reminded me of something that I myself had gone through as a little boy, and many times in life. How often I have been found myself. It wrote about a story which talked about if you were born um, after 2010, there are the things that you will never experience. The things you'll never experience if you were born after 2010. And one of those experiences was that people born after 2010 will never experience being lost. With all of the technology at our disposal, the GPS and everything, our phones, everything. It's almost impossible to get lost nowadays. And I remember as a little boy being separated from my mom just for a little bit, shopping one day, and I was just started to wander around, and poop, where was mom? And the terror and the anxiety, and I just kind of froze for a little bit. I didn't know which direction to move in. Where was I? What was I doing? Where's my mom? And I was almost going to scream when all of a sudden I saw her as she turned the corner, not far, just about 20 feet away, you know, and the relief I felt, and she got after me for leaving her, that's for sure. But the reality being, I knew I was saved when I saw my mom. Um, and I think it reminded me of something as an adult, just several years, about 10, 15 years ago. Um, I was in New York, stationed in New York at the time, and I was going to visit my in-laws from my place in New Rochelle and driving to uh, Connecticut. I think it was Southport, I think. And my the my sister's in-laws were having a big family get-together, and I was going to try and make it there for the dinner. And it was night, it was dark, pitch dark, and I figured, a couple of hours, what the heck. Now, at that time, I didn't have GPS in the cars I was driving, and I had just a map, and not thinking, how am I going to read a map in the pitch black of the car? Or just by I barely can see the road, let alone the map as I was trying to read it. But I thought I had a general idea where I was, and I started off. I said, I know what Connecticut is, and Connecticut's not a very big state, so I'll find it. I started going off, and somehow or other I got off the interstate and had no idea where I was. I was on a road. To tell you the truth, I didn't know what road I was. Never mind what road I was on. I didn't even know what state I was in, and I was starting to get a little anxious because it felt like I'd been driving for hours and had no clue where I was. There was no sign of life where I was. Matter of fact, the road kept changing from dirt to gravel to this to that, and I said, "Where am I? How do I get off of this road?" Did I want to just turn around and go back? Or did I want to just keep going? And I thought maybe I'll just keep going a little bit further, a little bit further. But the anxiety started building up in me a little bit. And all of a sudden, as I rounded a corner, I saw a little light in the distance. And I started getting hopeful. And as the light got bigger and I saw cars around the gas station, I said I knew I was saved, you know. And I wasn't that far off. I was on a parallel road, but I wasn't that far away from where I needed to be. But I knew I was saved when I saw life at that gas station, and I went and I was, saved, and a tremendous sense of well-being and peace came into my mind. And I thought, how often in life, I think all of us, whether you're born, no matter what year we're born in, we get lost at times. It's lost, not just maybe physically lost because we don't know where we're at, but sometimes we don't know how to deal with certain things in our life, certain problems that come up in our life, certain challenges that come up in our life. Sometimes we get overwhelmed and we say, Lord, how can I handle all this? What's the answer? How do I get out of this? Where do I find an answer to the problems that I have? How do I find a release? And I feel so tense and so upset, and so I can't sleep. I can't deal with all the problems and that I find, and I got anger and frustration and misery and wickedness and evil thoughts come into my head. And this is the time exactly that we're preparing for. This is why it's so important what we're preparing for during this Advent season. Because we remind ourselves of not only Christmas, but a saying that comes at Easter time, you know. And the saying was, happy fault of Adam, where we have received so great a Redeemer. It was because of the sin that we were saved. And we were given a sense of freedom, a sense of peace, a sense of hope, a sense of future, a sense of that we have a tomorrow that awaits us where there's only peace and joy and happiness and light and forever. You know? So that's the reminder. And today, these days of Advent remind us that that's what we're preparing for. For all of us have been lost. We're celebrating, we're preparing to celebrate a day and a feast of Christmas where God loved us so much that he sent his Son to be near us, to be one with us, to search for us, to find us. And he did search for us. He found us and he saved us. And it's in the saving that we have peace, that we have joy, that we have hope, and that we have love. The love of God in our hearts. My prayer is that all of us during this season experience that. Celebrate that story, because that's the story that unfolds that we're preparing to celebrate once again this year. Every year we celebrate, and it should be something we celebrate every day. The Christmas story lived every day. Our God who loves us enough to send us, to be one like us and to be one with us, to send us, to guide us, to assist us, to help us, to forgive us, but to teach us how to love and how to allow ourselves to be loved. May we find that gift and experience that gift during this Christmas season. I always thought that was what made it most special. Receiving things was very special for me as a little boy, but I think as I got a little older, being with family and being with friends and being surrounded by the people that I care for and value ended up being something even more important than anything I received. That the most important things in my life ended up not being so much the things I received, but the people that God blessed me with. May we all find that to be the same this year again, and every day, tomorrow, the day after, every day of every week of every month of every year. May we celebrate the Christmas story. God loving us, searching for us, finding us, and saving us. Let's pass it on. What a wonderful story. Let's keep the story alive and keep it moving. Mary, Help of Christians, pray for us. Mary, Help of Christians, pray for you. See you next week.